First things first, Crunchyroll, get your crap together. This is like the second time I've tried to watch Ranking of Kings when it came out, and I get constantly logged out. And this time they decided to ban me. That's awesome. It's a really good way to keep people from going to piracy. But that aside, thankfully Funimation once again came in for the rescue, even though it's the same company. And it was a fantastic episode. Episode 19 of Ranking of Kings was a fantastic episode. Again, I'm starting to get a feeling like they're going too many places at the same time, but still each individual moment is just absolutely spectacular. We've got a little more insight into Miranjo and Bosse specifically, but still, again, not the full story. We're still not to the point where we're getting into the demon and all that kind of stuff. But at least we did get an answer as to why she was mutilated. And again, the whole idea of them blaming the Homa and them disfiguring her to the point where Bosse has to essentially get somebody to reconstruct her. But yes, opening up this episode, the whole thing with Kage didn't go quite as far as I was thinking it was going to go. I was afraid it was going to turn this whole thing where Kage is like berserk and he can't stop himself. But no, it's immediately he's back to normal and Miranjo says, what a foolish thing to do. And Oken just kind of stabs right out of it. So it doesn't seem like he's in some weird void. He's just kind of like right there and he's able to bust out. So that didn't go well for Kage. And that turns into pretty much this whole scenario where Oken finishes off Boji. Everybody's pretty much gone at this point. Oken just goes over and chills next to Miranjo. And Miranjo leaves the mirror to go possess Red. I think it was Red. Yeah, Red. And using Red, she's able to heal Boji and Kage, which is, again, that whole aspect of her having that internal conflict and yet still going even so far as to help the ones that are against her, essentially. Yeah, this turns into a scenario where Desper and Boji, who are not quite dead yet, apparently, are seeing visions of Miranjo trying to stop Kage from going across the river, going beyond, going from life to death. And he's trying to cross this river to get to his mother, and as they're trying to call out for him, Miranjo stops the boat. And it was so funny because it was this cute moment, obviously, between Kage being able to finally say goodbye to his mother. He didn't get to say goodbye to his mother before, and now he's able to finally say goodbye to her. And it's obviously a very emotional scene. Him asking, well, at first it's like him not knowing that he has something left to do. And as he's kind of going forward, Miranjo's like, do you really want to go? You still have stuff to do. You shouldn't want to die yet. And that's when he finally remembers Boji and tells mom, look, are you doing well? Okay, well, I have things to do first, and then I'll come back. And interesting scene between Kage and Miranjo. Again, that whole aspect of like, why are you saving me? I mean, I can say thank you, but you're obviously the reason why I'm here, but thank you anyways. And that kind of triggers a little something in her to the point where you see from Daida's perspective, she's regained her form. And this is like one of those weird symbolism things, which is like really hard to really kind of get an idea of exactly what the writer wanted to do here. But essentially, it's implying that within Bosse, this self of Miranjo has regained humanity because she was a doll before. And then she regained her form as a human, and then she disappears, and Daida's like, you've regained your form, congratulations kind of thing. And she's like, yeah, I must have been freed. And then she's able to leave. And now again, the whole question mark there is, why is there something of this inside of Bosse and everywhere else? Is it an aspect of herself being fragmented into both Bosse and the mirror as her original self? Because there seems to be a direct connection there that's being affected by whatever Miranjo herself is doing or conflicted by. But either way, it kind of symbolizes this idea of her regaining her humanity, which is kind of interesting. But yes, it was one last scene in that whole death's borderline thing, and that was Miranjo looking across the river and seeing both Boji's mother and her mother. And then sadly, we don't get to see if they said something. It just quickly jumps from there back to the living. But that was an interesting, very brief look. I don't know. I almost want to probably pull something more out of it than it was, but it almost had a sense of, yes, disappointment there, but not anger. There wasn't an anger in the faces of both of them. On Bosse and Beben's side, this is where we get a little more information about the backstory. So at the point in which Bosse returned back to the kingdom, he ended up finding, of course, everybody's dead. The kingdom had betrayed the Homa, and he's obviously very upset at this. Finds everybody dead, and also Miranjo chained up to a pole, missing her hands, and obviously disfigured in some way, and this leads to him going absolute berserk and killing everyone. Like, they even have this little point which it has him stop before a mother defending her child, and she's like, it's all their fault or something like that, and she says, just, spare my child. And then it cuts away and you hear a splat. So obviously, everybody, man, woman, and child, he murdered everybody in revenge. And he was even going to finish off Miranjo, but he decides to take her to a doctor, where he then starts bringing bodies to it to basically use those body parts to reconstruct her and make her whole again. And it shows them afterwards, she's still kind of like dead-eyed, but he does wish to one day restore that smile upon her face. So the thing that really puzzled me though in this scene was like right after it shows this whole thing, and it shows how he wants to restore her smile in their adventures together. At some point, he says that everybody basically betrayed her. They used her, they destroyed her, whatever, and the one that betrayed her the most was me, which doesn't make any sense unless it's talking about the fact that they went and traveled together for so long, and they had this mission to get him stronger, and at some point, again, he had Boji, and he decided to settle down. He had a family there, and kind of left her behind. That's the only thing I can think of. Maybe his reference to betraying her is the fact that they built a relationship together, and then one day he had Boji and he left her behind. Probably the more concrete answer I would have there, but at the same time, we don't really know exactly what is transpired between that point that she was reconstructed and the point in which they went out, got stronger, and had Boji. It's just the way that it's worded at that time references that town, like what happened there. So it's a little weird placed. Unless it's implying that he failed to stop the gods, or he failed to stop that kingdom from attacking the Homa, or maybe he's just referencing killing her father. But the problem with that is that's not betrayal. That happened before. Betrayal requires you to have some sort of agreement, and then you go against it. Forgot to mention the moment that Miranjo became whole again and left Daida, he's like, "Don't leave me," and she says, "Don't worry, pretty soon." So it's kind of implying this idea of like, she knows that something's going to happen here soon, and probably it's going to restore Daida. Like, Daida doesn't have to stay in here forever. She already knows that things are playing out that's going to restore her. Now, big question mark there. Does this self of Miranjo within Bosse that's with Daida, does she know what Miranjo is thinking? And that Miranjo herself is thinking that they might just go ahead and maybe take Boji's body instead, and then Daida will return himself? Or does she believe that, or is she a separate fragment that believes that Miranjo is probably going to change her mind? A lot of that's a real big question mark. Or maybe she just thinks like, well, you're going to die anyways, kind of thing. Again, a lot to speculate there. It's very vague. But yeah, this one we have the big, huge fight with Oaken, which I thought was both, I hated it, but at the same time I loved it. It was a really fantastic fight. This is like the first time we see the big four all together fighting one opponent. They're no longer against each other. They're all going to one goal, and that's to take down Oaken. And it was a really cool fight. Obviously, some of them have their disadvantages, some don't. Domas goes first, and he's kind of quickly almost taken down. Bebin comes in. He's like, yeah, I just wanted them to see it. That's when Oppius and Dorche come up, and Dorche doesn't even care about the rocks. And they start taking him down all the way to the point where Dorche is on top of him and just pummeling him. And then that's when he recalls the spoken word of Desper and the idea that this is the point in which you are at your best. When you're in that real tight spot, you're energized. And that's when he just basically bounces back up and takes them all down. So yeah, it's a rough fight. At the same time, like I said, I'm so struggling with Oaken. Like he's so menacing and he's so disturbing, especially his laugh. But at the same time, it keeps showing us him human. It keeps showing those brief moments that, oh yeah, that's right, Oaken's human. Oaken is a person that had good intentions, but he fell and he became this just very corrupted thing. So it's rough though. But no, Bebin coming in and like immediately chopping him in half. I'm like, I love Bebin so much. And then he proceeds to talk down to the snake like, what are you doing? Like, you're letting this thing eat you. But yeah, a terrible spot to leave it though, just not really having that. I was hoping that the fight itself would conclude, but no, they're going to keep going. It does really seem like this final battle, I mean, we could probably still have them go up against Miranjo in some sort of interesting form, but it really does seem like it's hitting heavy on the idea that Oaken's kind of like the big boss of this climax. Because obviously we have, 4 more episodes left, so unless, again, Miranjo just becomes a super form or something like that, we're kind of wrapping things up at this point. I also forgot one last brief comment that was made at some point. Obviously, they were noting the fact that healing can't help Boji and Kage. She's out of commission. She's used all of her mana. She doesn't have any more potions. And they kept mentioning the idea that there's one more person that can help them. And my immediate thought goes to, it's Miranjo. But technically, Miranjo already healed them. Like, she became red Red came over there, and I'm assuming it was Moranjo using her ability through Red, or maybe Red has the ability to heal. We don't know. But Moranjo was healing them through Red. And then after this scene, they're still hurting, or they're still in bad condition, and they say that, healing needs to heal them. No, she doesn't have powers. Okay, well, there's still somebody else that can do it. So again, my mind immediately goes to Moranjo, but Moranjo already tried to heal them. Now, they don't know for sure if it was her, but they're assuming because they were seeing visions of Moranjo while she was healing. Now, what if it's Oaken? What if they feel like if they take down Oaken, they can use his blood to heal them? That's the only other thing I can think of in that regard, but interesting enough. Additionally, the other comment that I forgot to get into is, yes, that while they were getting into the backstory stuff, at some point it does show us that the gods themselves realized after the whole incidents with the Homa that they were going to have to change how they did things. They were talking about, well, are you going to enslave these people now that you've taken them down? They're like, yes, we need to, but it seemed like they had bigger fish to fry, and that was the survivability of the gods. They were realizing at that point, in that time frame of time, after the defeat of the Homa, they're going to have to do something in order to still retain that control they have over humans, because obviously humans can rise up. The ranking of kings system, by chance? I think that's where it's going. I honestly think that's where it's going. I think it's going to the idea that in order to keep mankind down, they're going to create the ranking of king system so that they basically compete with each other. Now, the oddity there is really around, why does it seem like everybody involved with the ranking of king system that we've seen so far, typically people that are known at, or that identify themselves as gods? I mean, I think we had Bosse, I think at some point was pointing out that he was technically a dying breed. It obviously indicated with Desper and Desper's father that was obviously somebody that was trying to find immortality and that he was a dying race. So I don't know, but I think we don't really have a pure idea of the timeline, but I don't think they've indicated anything around the ranking of king system in Bosse's history. So that would be a pretty good point right there, where the gods basically decide we need to do something to keep them from rising up against us. Oh, let's create a competition so they keep fighting each other. Which has me really curious as to, I'm assuming this whole segment right here with this whole discussion with the gods and the gods taking down the Homa and all that kind of stuff, I think that's going to be like down the line some. Like I said before, we have only 4 episodes to work with, and I think that's going to be a wrap up to Moranjo and Oaken. I don't think it's going to be anywhere in that realm. Like the whole thing with the demon and Moranjo, the thing with the gods and their control over the people, even the ranking and king system itself, it's like way over here. I'm realizing at this point we're wrapping things up. That stuff's way out here. So I hope it gets an announcement for a second season. If not, this one's gonna be a rough one to not just jump right into the manga after this. So we'll see. I'll probably give it a couple weeks after the series ends if they announce anything. But if somebody knows, again, I don't want spoilers. Somebody knows like how far we're into the manga and how much they have, if we'd even be able to get a second season right now, I'd be very curious about that. But that's my thoughts on episode 19 of Ranking the Kings. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below, comment, let me know about the episode, subscribe if you haven't already, share this video if you can, support us on Patreon, or through our tips link in the description below. We also have a Discord link down there that you can join, talk about anime. If you really love anime, jump right in there and talk to me. But anyway, we appreciate everybody that supports us, and y'all take care.